Welcome back to another review, and if you saw the last video, you know that at the end of the video I alluded to the next band I'm going to talk about, which of course is Genesis. Now, Genesis is an interesting band, interesting act. There really is a tale of two bands with lead singers, and not just lead singer change from Peter Gabriel to Phil Collins, but a style of music that started off artistic and very impressive in some ways in what they tried to do, but then went into more of a mainstream pop act, but a damn good one. So Genesis started back in the early 70s, kind of like the same vein as Yes, and there's another progressive act I'm thinking of, I can't remember, but in the same vein as Yes, they started to do a lot of folk music, and with Peter Gabriel as the lead singer, who came in, I think at 15 or 16 years old, he was very young. He brought a real vision to the band in terms of their lyricism and their music. Now, you know, Rutherford and Phil Collins, who came in on drums, I think in their third or fourth album, to replace the drummer. Those different elements that came into Genesis really formed who they were to become. Because, like I said, Collins, Rutherford, and Gabriel, they were the crux of that band. The other guy name escapes me, but once they got to about the late 70s, there was a bit of a change happening because Peter Gabriel started to get really crazy on stage with his costumes, coming out looking like a big daisy and, all this kind of stuff. And, some people thought that gimmickry took away from who they were as a band. I don't think so. I wasn't a fan. I wasn't a fan of early Genesis at all. I think that what they were trying to do was admirable, but it just wasn't to my taste. And once Gabriel left, they started to look for singers. And Phil Collins, ironically enough, I didn't know this, but he actually sang on some of their backing vocals in the early days. So he was adept at singing, but only backing vocals. I don't think he wanted to be the lead singer, but that's where he wound up. Now, once there was three members of Genesis, they certainly turned into a much more popular act. Now it's Rutherford, Collins, and the third name escapes me. I'm sorry, I should know it, but that's when they really came into their own. Duke was an album that kind of started that, and it garnered a couple of hits. Misunderstanding, Turn It On Again, Alone Tonight, another great one. Duke was a good album. They started in the 80s to really gel, and they started to come out with albums that still kind of harkened back to the artistic stuff that they did with Gabriel, but with a mainstream approach, with good rock and roll. With a lot of, they did some, rhythm and blues and stuff in there a little bit, So this album, Genesis, self-titled, 1983, Tony Banks is the third guy. This album is great. This is one of their better ones. If you're going to start with second generation Genesis, this would be the one I would go with. Mama, That's All, Illegal Alien. Illegal Alien is I love it. I think it's an awesome song. If you get a chance, look at the video for Illegal Alien. It's awesome. Great album. Another thing I like about Genesis, particularly with Phil Collins, is they started to use the drums more. Now, of course, Collins took it to another level in his solo stuff, which I think in a lot of ways was even better than Genesis, but it's apples and oranges, right? Or not apples and oranges. It's very similar to what they're about, those two, Phil Collins solo and Genesis. The drums are starting to get front and center, and I like that. I really did. I thought that was an admirable thing for Collins to do, because a lot of times this is just for rhythm, but it's a lot more than that, right? And then Abi Cab. This actually came out before in 81. This is another one that's got some great stuff. Abi Cab is a fantastic song if you don't know it. No Reply at All, that's easily one of the best ones on this album. And so, what else can I say? Genesis was a fantastic act. They were an act that grew from this progressive rock to kind of an art rock feel into the more mainstream pop. And when they did go into the mainstream, I loved it. I thought it was fantastic. And it was crafted very well. I think that Phil Collins is a great singer. He's a great songwriter. He certainly proved that on his solo stuff. I mean, fantastic. And another band my old man loved. My dad loved Genesis. He cranked this stuff. And I enjoyed it. So anyway, getting through the G's on the way to the H's. I don't know who's an H, but I don't know. I guess we'll find out. Who the hell knows? Cheers.